All right, Gretchen, thank you so much for hanging out with me today to share some of your stories.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes, this is a nice way for me to introduce future guest speakers for the Movement System Monthly, which is like a monthly webinar that I do for the Japanese community. So we'll just get started here first. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your current roles are at Washington University in St. Louis?
Sure. So my name is Gretchen Meyer, and I am an assistant professor here at Washington University in St. Louis in the program in physical therapy. And I primarily run a research lab, and my lab studies skeletal muscle physiology. And so I would say that maybe 90% of my work is research-based. And then I do some teaching in the DPT program and in the PhD program. And then I mentor PhD students who do lab work here to get their PhD.
Yes, fantastic. So you originally got your bachelor's. I looked at your CV, which is available on the WashU website. You got your bachelor's degree and your master's degree in mechanical engineering in the same year.
Yes.
that sounds amazing. Like how hard was that to get that done?
Not very. So it sounds more impressive than it actually is. It was a program that WashU offered that was 5 years to do both your bachelor's and master's at the same time. And basically my master's was just extra coursework. So it meant that I took like maybe 5 or 6 extra courses during the course of my degree. But I did do the 5-year program in 4 years because I took courses over the summer when I was doing research in labs.
Oh, I see. So it was kind of like, it was really nonstop for you all the entire 4 years.
Yeah. Because I would do like part-time research in the lab, maybe 20 hours a week. And then I would fill the other time with courses just to be ahead.
I see. Wow. Are you originally from St. Louis, Gretchen?
No, I'm originally from Missouri, but a different part of Missouri. We're a town called Springfield that's about 3.5 hours southwest of here.
Yes, I'm familiar. Now, going from mechanical engineering as undergrad to then you moved to San Diego, UCSD, for your bioengineering degree. How did you get interested in bioengineering?
So I was always interested in, I would say, medicine. When I was younger, I was really interested in diseases and how they affected the body. And I used to have this medical home encyclopedia that told you what the symptoms of every disease were. And I would take it with us, like when we went on vacation, because I just liked to read it, which sounds like a crazy thing. But I never wanted to be a doctor. You know, it was too much pressure having people's lives in your hands. And I was really interested in engineering and math and science. And when I came to WashU as an undergraduate, I didn't know that you could combine those two things together. And so I picked mechanical engineering, and then I got exposed to biomedical engineering, and I said, oh, this is the thing for me. Would really like to do this. And I did some undergrad research in it. But then when it came time to find a job, I thought I was going to go into industry, but I couldn't find a job in biomedical engineering based industry. So actually in between my undergraduate and graduate degrees, I worked for 2 years for Boeing doing mechanical analysis of fighter jets. And so I didn't really like that work very much. It didn't inspire me, say. And so then I decided that what I needed was another degree to get into biomedical engineering. And so that's when I decided to start the PhD program in San Diego.
Yes, very good. And speaking of San Diego, what was it like working with people like Dr. Rick Lieber and Dr. Adam Engler?
I would say it was inspiring. They're both just super high quality scientists, and scientists who really care about science, not scientists that care about the product, the publication. They're scientists that care about the actual project and finding the truth and discovering new things about biology and the way that muscle works and the way that cells work. And that's really the kind of scientist that I strive to be, not so focused on getting ahead, but focused on what Rick Lieber used to call the truth with a capital T. Even if your hypothesis is wrong, you still discovered something really interesting about the body and biology.
Yeah. I really geek out about muscle physiology. As an undergrad, I was a biology major, and I really loved my senior neurobiology class where I was getting to dissect out the frog Sartorius.
Oh,
And we were looking at the neuromuscular junction, and we were kind of messing around with the acetylcholine level. And so I really just geek out about Dr. Lieber's textbook and kind of understanding at what's happening at the cellular level. Just that's my personal interest.
Yeah, mine too. And I honestly, when I went back to school, I had planned to go into industry. I just needed a degree to get my foot in the door. And Rick Lieber really inspired me to stay in academic science because of that. He would geek out in the same way. And it made me understand how cool it was to discover things about biology and to understand how a tissue worked and manipulate the system and, just poke it and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And yet there's still so much that we don't know about muscles. I mean, we think muscles is like, okay, it's right here. And yet when we get down to the nitty-gritty, we still don't know a whole lot about muscles.
It's true. There's so much still to uncover. And that's what makes it exciting to come to lab every day.
Yeah. For your career, outside of people like your PhD advisors, who else have influenced you in your career?
So one person comes to mind, which is Sam Ward, which some of you may know of or have met. He worked with Rick when I was a PhD student, and he really took me under his wing and provided extra mentorship to me above and beyond, what would have been expected. And because he is also a PT, he helped me get this job here. One, because he knew the PT department at WashU, but another because he was such an amazing example of a PT who was a scientist who could integrate this understanding of what is happening in the body when we use our body and how that might go wrong, and then how we can study it at the tissue level and make a better treatment, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that is a name that we all know if we're a physical therapist. So that's great to have that kind of influence. I didn't know that Sam had that influence on you to come back to WashU. And
he
that
did.
kind of, yeah.
Both Rick and Sam helped me. Yeah.
Was it hard leaving San Diego? I mean, the weather
is so right
there, but you eventually made your way back home to your home state now at WashU.
I would say it was harder for my husband than it was for me, because he really didn't want to leave the West Coast. He was like, Missouri, I don't even know where that state is. But for me, it was coming home, and I was ready to start my own career. And I couldn't do that in San Diego because I would always have been Rick and Sam's trainee there. So I had to go away from their group and kind of start my own thing. And I was really excited about that. And so I was ready to move back here. And my husband has come around, and now he likes Missouri, okay, even though he still dreams of the West Coast.
I see. Yes, it is hard to leave the West Coast, but it's also the people and the kinds of projects that you get to do. I mean, how amazing is it to have your own lab, Gretchen?
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty terrifying the first time you start your lab and you open the door and it's just an empty room and there's nobody in it and there are no things in it, and all of the decisions come to you. What do we buy? Where do we get it? How do we set it up? How do we get started? Even just a simple assay that I would have taken for granted in another lab, I have to buy all of the ingredients, and then I have to make sure that it works for me. And so the startup I thought it was going to be more exciting, and it was a little more terrifying. But right now, everything is great. I love the people that I work with. I like being able to direct the projects to decide what the important scientific questions are and how we're going to answer them. And that's really why I'm here and not in another position, or, why I didn't end up going back to industry, is because I want to be the one who makes those decisions and guides the science.
Yeah. You mentioned that you really like working with the people around you. What is it like working with PTs at WashU and also other institutions?
I love PTs. I had no experience outside of Sam Ward with PTs in my life before coming here. And they are just some of the most caring and thoughtful scientists that I've ever met. They are in it for the science, just like I described, wanting to understand human movement, wanting to improve it, trying to figure out the best way to do that, and supporting each other in every step of the way. And I think that's how we do good science. And so it's an amazing environment to work in, and has really expanded my understanding of the human movement system and how disease affects it and how it affects disease. It has been really fascinating.
Yeah. Now, on a day-to-day basis, you work a lot with mice in your lab. How hard is it to keep them alive and keep everything going?
Oh my gosh, it's easy. I mean, compared to the people who do human subjects-based research, the mice always show up for testing. You just bring them over. They do everything that you want them to do. They almost never die, which is good. We don't do anything to them that's too traumatic. And they're powerful tools, honestly, because we wouldn't be able to answer the kind of questions that we can answer in mice with people. And so we can use this basic science-based research to understand a fundamental system better, to then develop the right questions to ask in people.
Right. Yeah, there's so much more control that you have over mice, as you said. I love that line, that mice always show up for the for the appointment times.
Yeah, they do. They're always on time.
Now, we're going to have you as a guest speaker for the June Movement System Monthly webinar. What can we expect to learn from you then?
Well, I hope to tell you more about our research trying to understand intramuscular adipose tissue. So that's our main area of research. This fat forms within muscle, and we don't know a lot about it. We don't know a lot about how it gets there, but we especially don't know a lot about what it does to muscle once it's there. And so I'm going to tell you about some work that we've done showing that we believe that it actually impairs muscle contraction directly. It doesn't just take up space. And then I'm going to talk about some ways in which that might be happening.
Yeah, really excited about that. Yeah, as I said, I am already geeking out about learning about muscle and fat physiology details from you. So speaking of, someone who who has a much better understanding about muscles and fat, you probably exercise on a regular basis. What kind of workouts do you do, Gretchen?
Mostly running, but as I've gotten older, I've gotten more into strength training because I think that that's really important to help me maintain muscle mass as I get older. And so I'd say, a combination of running and then weight training type work.
I see. Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of months.
You're very welcome. I'm very excited.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Thanks.